Hey everybody, it's Chet Zar here. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. Today we have episode 166, which is my interview with Brian Despain, who's a great artist. I'm a big fan of his, and been wanting to have him on for a long time, actually. As you may have noticed, I postponed this week's episode, or last week's episode, and moved it to this week because all the protests going on. I just felt kind of weird about putting a show up that's, about art at a time like this. And I didn't want Brian's interview to get overshadowed either, so it just seemed like the right thing to do. Yeah, how about those protests? Pretty amazing. I'm very happy about them and proud of these people who are going out and taking the time and risking, COVID-19 to make this statement that's needed to have been made for quite a long time. And it's really heartening to me. Is heartening a word? It's really a beautiful thing to see this happening all over the world. I mean, it's amazing. This is amazing. I don't know if maybe I think a lot of people don't realize how big this is and how kind of incredible it is and what a long time coming it's been. And it's about goddamn time. So, thank you to everybody who's out there protesting. It's amazing. And sending out the good vibes to you to keep you safe and make some real change in this country and the world. So I was interviewed yesterday on Instagram by an artist named Jake Cobran, who's a visionary artist. He's really, really great. Cool guy, nice guy, but a great artist as well. So he invited me on his live stream to do an interview. And, we were talking about dark art and the idea that dark art is good and spiritual, and the real danger is keeping the darkness below the surface and ignoring it. This we were kind of talking in the context of the protests, and the real danger is when these things are left unexamined, these dark impulses that human beings have, and they need to come out. And so bringing them to the surface and showing them through art is, it's a healing thing. Just because it's creepy or ugly or scary or whatever, it's when you look deeper, it's a healthy thing to do. And it's it's one of the things that really gives dark art so much value. It's a necessary thing that needs to happen. And so anyway, Jake brought this great point up that as dark artists, we go into the collective unconscious and dredge up the kind of evil stuff that's pushed down below the surface and bring it out to show people so that they can consider it, and it can kind of like make a little dent in their psyche and maybe consider things and maybe think about things differently. And it's because we know what happens when you push things down and you don't deal with problems that are beneath the surface. I mean, they come up in, they come out through violence and stuff like that. So he was saying it's kind of like a collective exorcism, or dark artists are kind of performing these little exorcisms with their art for the collective unconscious, for the collective, And I thought that was just a really cool way to look at it. Like we're doing a service, which I thought was kind of amazing. So anyway, thanks for that, Jake. That was awesome. So you can listen to it on his Instagram. It's up as one of his posts. Jake Cobran, Kobrin. I'm not sure what his his actual Instagram account is, but if you search Jake Coburn or Jacob Coburn, I think it will come up. So let's do the new subscribers and then get on with the interview. Yeah, that's it. Let's see. Okay. I think I left off at Terry Fairchild. Okay, we have Gypsy Antra. Thank you, Gypsy Antra. And we have Richard Potter. Join the Patreon. Thank you, Richard. And we have Maritza, Maritza. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. Hope to see you on the Friday Night Art Jam. If you want to join, like I always say, if you want to join the Patreon, you can join for as little as $1 a month, and you support the podcast and all of that good stuff. So it's patreon.com/darkartsociety. All right. So let's get on with the Brian Despain interview. He's an awesome guy, really nice guy, easy to talk to, and a great artist. So check it out, and I hope you enjoy it. What's up, Brian?
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You...
Huh? What?
I'm sorry. I'm sitting here. It's hot out. It's like 80 something here. It's
I know, here too.
Yeah.
I just turned off my air conditioning. I can't. That's a bummer about this podcast. I can't have the air conditioning on because it.
Oh man!
So it's like it's good now. But by the end of it, I'm gonna be sweating.
That's all right.
Yeah, but thank you for coming on the show. I mean, we haven't met, have we?
One time, I think we met in the parking lot of Copro Nason.
Okay.
During the, do you remember the heavy metal show?
Heavy Metal Magazine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. We had driven up, we were living in Oceanside at the time. And so we had, my wife and I had driven up, and it was, it's like a 2-hour drive. It's ridiculous how long it takes to drive around. So we were just like tired, we're just believing, but you were outside. I think we were eating a hot dog. But
no, not a hot dog, because I don't eat meat. Maybe it's a vegan hot dog or something.
It was a taco truck there. That's
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, so we chatted. But yeah, no, it's like, I mean, like we've known each other on the internet for, God, forever.
I know.
But that is literally the only time we've seen each other face to face.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was all of like 2 minutes.
Right. Well, yeah, I feel like I know you. It's funny though. I say this all the time on the podcast is I interview people that I feel like I know because I've been showing with them forever and we've been running in the same circles and I know them from online, but I don't actually know anything about them. I've never sat and talked to them. So it's so cool to be able to.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I've had the same experience at other shows where you get introduced by a third party to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, I know you.
Right.
Like, I know. Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny thing, but yeah, it's I understand. I get it.
It's weird. It feels like with most of the people on here that I interview, because I interview people that I like, that I think are good, that I'm interested in, and I always feel like I know them, and it's like we have this rapport immediately, like it's not uncomfortable. Yeah. But then it's like we don't know anything about each other really, because we've never really sat and talked. It's a really weird thing, but. Yeah,
well, now's the time.
Yeah, now we're gonna do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I've actually been a really big fan of yours for a long time, since I first saw your work way back. I don't know if it's from Spectrum, the Spectrum books. Were you in those, or okay? Maybe it might be from the Spectrum books.
I started Spectrum. I was in number 5.
Wow,
it was the first book I was in. And then I didn't get into 6. And then from 7 through, I think, 21 or 20, I had something in. And then I finally, just when Kathy and Arnie transitioned over to Flesk, I think I got in the first year, but the second year I ended up getting juried out and kind of had a crisis of faith and was just like, what am I doing? Why am I paying money to like, fuck this shit. I'm just out. I'm out. And I, and it seems in retrospect a little childish, but it was, I kind of have some inkling of like, maybe I should put something back in there now. And at the same time, I'm kind of like, I've literally never gotten a job from Spectrum.
Right.
It's really just me paying money to pat myself on the back.
Right.
And it's like, I got better things to do. So
yeah. I mean, they're amazing books.
They're great. They're a great source of inspiration.
Right.
They're a great source of like, I mean, there's some incredible stuff that's happening in there. And yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely certain people do get jobs from it, and they're wholly just very professional. But I just don't see the point in me doing it anymore.
Right. Yeah. You don't need to unless you would want to for some reason. But I also I think I know your work from, or I knew your work initially from, I know it was some of the galleries down here. Like, did you show at ThinkSpace or Copro early on? Or?
I showed at Copro. Sorry, I'm eating ice. I showed at Copro. My first gallery showing was with Kirsten Anderson up at Rock the Roo in Seattle.
What year was that?
Oh God, I don't know. Woolly Mammoths had just like died out, and yeah, honest to God, it was 2000 and
something.
It's so far long ago.
I shouldn't be asking questions about dates because I'm the worst when it comes to dates. If you were to ask me when I started showing at Copper, I would have no idea. So,
right?
It was a long time ago.
Like, so much has happened. I'm like gone in and out. And it's just like I want to say like 2002, maybe.
Right, yeah.
Right. I mean, like forever ago.
Yeah, that's when I started painting for the first time. Like when I started showing was 2002. So it could have been around there.
Yeah.
But anyway, point being is that I've always been a big fan of your work, and
well, thank you. Well,
oh, thank you. But it's like there's a handful of artists that were really influential to me that I never mentioned for some reason, and has nothing to do with I don't know why that is. It's just like I guess there's so many influential artists. My go-tos are when people ask me in interviews are always like Frazetta, Giger, and Beck.
Sure.
You know, I mean, but it was like, you, Cam De Leon was huge for me.
Yeah.
Phil Hale. There's like this whole handful of people that I really resonated with their work, and you were one of those people. Like every time I saw one of your pieces, I was like, it's like. I feel like we're, somehow tapping into some similar things. I just felt that way with the color palette and the weirdness, the surreal, thing.
It seems like our subject matter is completely different wheelhouses. I mean, like just bookended, right?
Right.
When you start and this is like really art nerdy type things, but like. As a artist, you don't necessarily look at just subject matter. You're like, oh, this paints horror. I like horror. This guy paints robots. It's about the technique.
Totally.
It's about the way that they put down paint.
Mm-hmm. The colors.
The colors. It's the thing. And trying to explain that to a layman, like especially in an interview that's like not an art interview,
right?
Where you're talking to another artist, but rather just a magazine or. It's difficult to express the level of need to kind of consume that art, right? And it is for me. It's a consumption. It's like all I want to do is like ball it up and eat it.
Yeah, right. and then and shit out a painting from that.
right. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, because that ken for painting is so ingrained, and to have like. Just this minutia of new tools, whatever I can glean from whatever painting I see, I'm like, oh my God, that thing. And then I'm going to go from there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Chris Mars is another one of these people. Like there's this handful of people that were very influential that for some reason, I just don't mention enough. But anyway, you were one of them. So I love your work. I love it. I'm, I was reading some, doing a little bit of prep work before recording this, and we sound like we have some similarities, as in our approach, maybe also, like from what I was reading, like, I don't know if this is true, if you said this, but on your Wikipedia page, it says you consider yourself more of a symbolist, and you're like, the only other artist I know that knows what symbolist art is. And I always felt like I'm more of a symbolist than anything as far as what symbolist art is. Not that,
that came about when I first started showing with Kirsten and trying to do that whole gallery scene, and feeling the need to sort of live the part, right? I kind of have that go-to phraseology that people kind of, glom onto.
People want it. They want to hear it.
And it's funny too, because it's like none of it is really that accurate.
Right.
And so I needed, I was kind of looking at the pop surrealism movement and kind of thinking that I was like, man, I'm not really a pop surrealist. I don't I do robots, but I don't do pop art.
Right.
That's not the thing. And so I was trying to come up with something that was more apropos of what I actually do. And the symbolists, I went to art school and I studied art and art history and stuff. And the symbolists seemed to have that sort of more metaphorical, what I was trying to achieve with the paintings. It wasn't about drawing Mickey Mouse as a rat, which has its place, but it wasn't what I was trying to do.
Right.
So it was more me trying to label myself rather than try and have somebody else put me into a box.
Right. But
I was for all those art nerds out there, I was a modern day fauve.
A fauve?
A fauve. The Wild Dogs. There was a group of artists that was in France that they basically just labeled themselves.
Oh, cool. The thing about the pop surrealism term, which is, it's all good and it was fine. I've never been really, no artist that I know of gives a shit about labels really, but it seemed okay to me. Lowbrow seemed okay to me, even though that kind of is a different thing. I had never had an issue with that.
I am not a street artist. I've never been a street artist. I appreciate street art. I know a lot of street art. Fucking good, but I'm not a street artist.
But I remember kind of thinking about, I was showing at Pop Surrealism galleries because that's the only place that would show my stuff. It was before.
Right.
And now people are fine, I think partially because I'm trying to, a lot of people are accepting the dark art term just because I sort of went and realized at a certain point, everybody's calling what I do and this kind of darker stuff. And I would even argue that your work fits in this terminology, but it's people call it dark art. That's what people are calling it. So we might as well just go with it. Names are lame anyway. It's like the art makes the name cool, not the name doesn't make the art cool. So,
the continuation of people's trying to codify the world, basically.
Yeah,
really what.
So, but I remember looking up, really learn, because I didn't go to art school, so I had to, I'm kind of ignorant. And I had to kind of look things up myself, and the pop, it's I was thinking the same thing. My stuff's not pop, and it's not even really surrealism, really, because real surrealism is more dream imagery, and it's kind of specific. It's they have a manifesto of a way to paint, and at one point this collector goes, "You're a symbolist." And I was like, "What the hell's a symbolist?" Because I didn't, like I said, I didn't go to art school. So I looked it up and I'm like, and it was so vague. It was like, it was like basically the meaning. It just seemed a lot more like the way I paint, which is intuitive and emotional and more about capturing a feeling than anything
100%.
else.
100%. Yeah.
But that name didn't catch on. So I went with dark art.
Dark art works.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, dark surrealism is good too, but that still isn't quite, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, I get it. I get it. I get that sense of like, I do have a definite macabre bent to my paintings. I do it specifically to garner a reaction. I mean, that's
right.
Really is. I mean, it's all about emotion for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's you mentioned like in an interview I was reading about having a sense of kind of a melancholy feeling to your work, not so much sadness, but a little melancholy. And I was like, that's so, another way I felt like I had a lot in common with your work, my work.
Yeah.
That sense of, the way, however you described it was like, yeah, I totally get that. That's kind of what I'm going for as well. So
yeah, somebody else recently labeled my stuff as winsome, which it again has that. Yes, it is. It's supposed to be beautiful, but sort of
exactly
kind of. I'm trying to paint the Wes Anderson film. Is basically.
Somebody told me once a long time ago that my stuff was romantic, and I actually really liked that because it's it's it is kind of romantic in a really kind of fucked up way.
Right.
It has that sense.
Romance not in the classic way.
Right.
Day hearts and candy type,
right,
but there's a romance like Bram Stoker's romantic,
exactly,
right?
Yeah,
Mary Shelley's romantic, right.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know, that's just where I'm coming from with your work. I love it. So but I was going with the things we had in common, like the numbers. You do a lot of numbers on your robots, and I do like this number 5 all the time. There's a lot of weird little things I was noticing, the similarities in the palette, and maybe even our technique. I mean, it seems like you do a lot of glazing.
I tend to do a lot more. I very much go in like one pass, so I do black or white, and then I go color right over the top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think you build up more.
Yeah,
it's the finish.
Right.
The finish is very similar.
Yeah,
very. I do love your painterly accents, though. You have a very deft hand with the brush that I like.
Thank you.
I'm too controlled, I think, and I that's one of those things where it's like I really want to do more painterly stuff,
right?
But I'm scared to jump off.
Tell me about it.
The dog.
I feel the same way about my own work. It's like it's my tendency has always been to be like a kind of a tight painter, more of like an illustration type.
Absolutely.
And it's like it's something I've struggled with my entire career, and it's like I've done it. I'm able to do it, but it never feels like, it doesn't feel natural to me to paint loose. It's like it's hard for me. It's an effort. You know what I mean?
I get it, and I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I'm too old there anymore.
I know, right? And I feel the same way. So, okay. You also, another thing you had in common we had in common that I think most artists have in common, but not all that have been on this podcast, is that you've been drawing since you were a little kid. I mean, you were an artist since as far back as you can remember. Is that the case?
No, I picked up a pencil the first time when I was 43. No, of course. I've got paper that I went through. Really?
Some people that I've interviewed on here didn't start drawing until they were like 18 or 19 or 20. It's kind of weird. Most of them are, kids who started.
I've had just a interest in drawing since I was just a kid. My dad used to work as a software engineer, and he used to way back in the beginning of the computers, and they had the pin feed printers.
Wow, yeah.
That had the accordion paper.
Yep.
And he'd get these reams of paper that were had data on one side of it, but the other side was blank. So they would just throw this stuff away. So he'd just bring it home. And so I had these reams and reams and reams of paper that were just numbers on one side and then blank on the other. I would just draw constantly these long, drawn out scenes.
Yeah.
Right. Most of them were like, because I was 6 when Star Wars came out, so it's sort of like completely just consumed my life.
Right.
And so a lot of the scenes that I would draw, like space stations and little rovers and aliens and stuff like that. And, I remember another one, which is kind of funny. Another one of my, and I don't know where it came from, but I was fascinated with haunted houses.
Oh yeah, me too.
So I would draw the outside of the house.
Yeah,
and, like,
same here.
and like spider webs in the corners and ghosts and stuff.
Totally.
And I have no idea. Like it happened, and then like it never happened again. And,
it was a phase.
Yeah.
I just never grew out of the phase.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I was into dinosaurs too. So I guess that was another one of those things that just sort of kind of flittered away as other things filtered in.
Right. So you were I'm sure you were the art kid. You were the best artist in school. That was your identity in school, I'm imagining. And you went to college.
I did. So my dad insisted that I go to college, and I had originally, so I was living in Michigan.
Oh, what part of Michigan?
Right outside of Ann Arbor.
Okay, my wife is from Pontiac.
Yep.
The Hood.
I know it. Yep. I lived in the Hood for a while too.
Yeah.
A little older. I was a little older, but so I was going to go to Kendall College of Art and Design, which is an art school in Detroit. I mean, it's not as well lauded as like RISD or Ringling or any of those, but you know, it was a dedicated art school, and like any good private art school, it was astronomically expensive, and so I realized my parents were like, well, we can't do this, so you're going to go to public school. So I ended up going to, I tried to get into U of M, but I was a horrible student all through high school, and my grades reflected that. And,
horrible in what way? How bad?
I think it was like a hard C.
Yeah, that's about where I was.
Right. And it wasn't that I was stupid. I was just like, school is not my thing.
It was boring, right?
It's boring, and I don't learn the way that they teach. I'm terrible at rote memorization. I cannot do it.
Same here.
And it wasn't until I got into college, I had an art history professor that taught art history anecdotally. So he would talk about, like, this painting happened during the French Revolution.
Right.
And they were really interested in Greek because they were a dictatorship or emperor, like whatever Napoleon wanted him to be, that was trying to then become a democracy. And so they were very interested in Greek art because it was a democratic government system. Right. So like everything they had then reflected that. I was like, oh, duh.
Yeah, context.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's stuck in my head.
Interesting.
So it's stuff like that. It's like, I'm very much an anecdotal learner. I'm not good just names and dates. In school it just wasn't good for me. And so I ended up going to Eastern Michigan University, which had a much lower bar than University of Michigan. And I got into the art program there, and spent 6 years getting a 4-year art degree. Like, literally the only thing that I do well, it still took me 6 years to do what most people do in 4 years.
Right.
That bad of a student.
You did it.
But I did it. And then promptly never used the degree again. But my dad wanted me. And
I'm sure you learned a lot. I mean, in college, I look back and I wish I had gone to college just because there's a lot of just life experience I imagine you get from college.
Yeah. I mean, you had a different life experience. I would say that no matter how, if I could, preface this. One of the things I despise more than anything is the term self-taught. I'm a self-taught artist. And because every learning experience, whether you are on your own and reading books and experimenting, or you have somebody saying, hey, you should try this, is exactly the same.
Right.
The only difference between instructions and self-instructed is that you have somebody to sort of bump you along,
right,
in the right direction. Say, hey, maybe you haven't considered this, right? Whereas if you're on your own, you have to kind of come up with all those solutions on your own.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad I went to college. I wouldn't say it's necessary. If you want to go out and be an artist, go be a fucking artist.
Right.
I mean, it's just not necessary.
Yeah.
If you want to make money, go to trade school. You know,
right?
Like that's. But if you want to be an artist, man, fucking, my kid wants to be an artist. I'm like, just pick up a pencil, draw. You're an artist,
right?
Right. It doesn't take a college degree.
Yeah, no.
To be an artist.
I remember. I remember.
And the funny thing is that.
Oh no! I was just gonna say I remember being in the first grade and just knowing I was an artist. That was it. You know, I was gonna do it in one way or another.
I have to applaud my father in this, that he did not want me to be an artist. He was afraid. He was like, oh my God, you're never gonna make money. But in spite of it, he still did not stop me from going to art school.
Yeah, that says a lot, actually.
Yeah. And I mean, if I may toot my own horn, I've proved him wrong, but
right. I would say so.
But yeah, it's a hard road. It's not for everyone. And I was going through art school at the time where like there was a trend where like everybody's an artist and you're just like whatever you do is amazing and so like, you know, I took an oil painting class and they were like, here's how you stretch a canvas on the first day. So we'd stretch canvases and we gessoed them, and they're like, all right, now you know that. I need 6 paintings by next week. I'm like, so okay. So it was a lot of throwing of paint and smearing,
right, and
rolling around and, you know, paint on my face and then rub it down on the canvas, and like, you know, it's like no real. And then you put it up in front of the class, and everybody's like, well, I really like what you've done here with your green. And like, it was just like bullshit. It was a bullshit degree because nothing was ever really taught.
Yeah. Or learned.
Yeah. And so a lot of it was, I took as many drawing classes as I could and really focused in on drawing. And they didn't even offer an illustration program.
Wow. That's what I was going to suggest. It's like, you know,
right?
illustration is probably better.
Yeah, I ended up making my own illustration program just based on classes. I was just like, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to take as many drawing classes as I can because I'm getting nothing.
Right.
Like they didn't even tell you how to put together a show. Like if you want to be a fine artist, and it was near the end where I'm like looking at people doing student shows and doing all these, you know, kind of like artsy fartsy type pieces and stuff, and I was just like, you know, I'm this is not me. I'm never gonna make it. Like I can't do this.
Right.
And so I became in my own mind an illustrator.
Huh.
And pursued that the best I could with the tools that I had available to me.
Right.
You know, and I graduated and immediately started looking for a job. And the hell was my first job out of that?
Drawing maps, drawing weird maps. I've read in an interview you drew some.
Oh yeah, no, I was working. Oh, that's right. Okay, I got it now. Yeah, God, that's even longer ago than when I first started doing fine art. So, yeah, so I was working at a art supply store through college, and some people came in. They're like, "Hey, does anybody here draw?" And I had been drawing like cartoons and stuff my whole life. As a matter of fact, in high school, one of my like go-to was like, I'm going to be a cartoonist when I grow up. I want to be Burke Breathed, who did Bloom County. Right. I want to be that guy. I was fascinated with it. And this is actually before Calvin and Hobbes, which I think it would have just been like, that would have been the tipping point.
Right.
It's like, if somebody do this all day, that's what I want to do.
Right.
But yeah, it was Bloom County and Farside were my kind of like go-to.
Farside for me, man. I was huge Farside fan.
Fascinating that they would do this. And so I had done a lot of cartooning, and somebody came in and said, "Hey, can you do? Is there anybody here that does drawing and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like, whatever, I can do it." And this company would go to towns, and they would go to different businesses in the towns and say, "Hey, for free, we can put you on this cartoon map of the town with your business and a picture of your,
Oh.
And so I would
That's
end up
how those
having
things get made.
Yeah. They would sell advertisement, so that like they made their money through the advertisement of the thing. It was like this weird, very convoluted thing, but I ended up doing the artwork for it. And so I would get the stack of like, not even, it was back before digital, so a stack of photographs of the people and their buildings, of their business and their sign, and then I would end up having to lay out the entire town and place their businesses in the right roads and stuff, but the roads were like real convoluted and stuff. And I would do it all by hand. What? Yeah. Oh, it's okay. My wife.
Hey, hello.
So I would have to draw the entire thing on a big sheet of paper and color it in with the alcohol-based marker, the barrel. Remember those old markers that had the fat end and the skinny end?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like halfway through, I'd run out of like a certain color, and I wouldn't be able to get the green anymore because I'd be like trying to draw all the grass and stuff. So like the would like slowly fade out and then shift to another color. Terrible. But I did it, and then there was other like little. It was sort of my first foray into working with an art director, right? Because these people, the people that ran the company, would go to the businesses and be like, "Hey, we need to take a photograph," and the people would be like, "All right, I want myself and my 48 kids, and we're all going to be in this picture." And they would be like, "All right, okay," and then take the picture, and then it would come to me, and I'm like, "I literally cannot draw this in a square. Like, I don't know what you want me to do here."
Right.
And so go back to the people and be like, it was an interesting experience.
But hey, you're a professional artist at that point.
Yeah, that was literally my first real professional art gig. So I was working at the art supply store still. I didn't like quit and just do this full time, but I would get these freelance gigs. I was 18 when I started doing that. Yeah, it was a fascinating experience. Later on, the couple that was running the company divorced, and then both of them were coming to me. So I had I split my clients. It was cool. I had doubled my clients through divorce. So it was an interesting experience. I never would do it again, ever. Although, you know what? Now I would do it all digitally, so it'd be so much easier.
Right.
You can totally handle it now, but
you got into digital pretty early too, right?
Yeah. So I was one of my first jobs out of college, because I was a real go-getter, was working for a company that worked out of Kinko's to do business cards. Right. It was NEBS, the New England Business Service, NEBS, and it was just miserable. I would do these hokey little business cards for people with canned artwork that went on them, and have it just it was terrible. The stupid job. And I remember I was not a lot of people come in either. I mean, I thank God I was salaried, it wasn't a commission, but not a lot of people would come in. So I had a lot of downtime, and I was going through the stock art on the computer, and I was like, "Oh, hey, here's a black and white clip art of a skull." And I had been using Photoshop for I think the first Photoshop I was using was like 5 or 4. I think it was 4.
Wow.
Or 3. I can't remember. It was low number. So I've been using it for a little while, but didn't really have any sort of I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of click around, and I did the tutorials and whatnot. But I was like looking at the skull, and it occurred to me, I had this sudden epiphany that if I took it into Photoshop, I could fill it in and render it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really good at rendering because I spent so much time doing black and white pencil illustration. And I was like, hey, you know what? And prior to me doing this color illustration on the computer, I had done a ton of freelance illustration for pen and paper, role-playing games,
mm-hmm.
and the like. And so I was really good at doing really good at doing finely detailed rendered pencil drawings, graphite. Right. I had a whole process and stuff. And so I was like, man, I think I could do the same thing with Photoshop. And I sat down and I did the skull, and it took me a little while. And I did the whole thing with a mouse.
Right.
You know, and from that point on, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to try and do all my illustration this way, because it was so easy, and the results were so good that I was like, why would I ever do anything else?
Right.
And so I kind of started down that path. Early or late 90s. Right. Yeah, it was like 96, 97.
Oh,
when
wow.
I started doing digital painting. And I like, nobody would take it. Like, I remember trying to do freelance gigs in the role-playing world, and nobody, like, no art director, they're like, no.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, no, nobody wanted it. And, yeah, I and then, you know, of course I got a tablet, and that was it. I was like, I'm never doing anything else again.
Right. Yeah.
And, yeah, that sort of was a launching point for a big portion of my career, because I ended up, getting a full-time, graphic design gig. And even there, they were still using markers to do a lot of the marker renderings and stuff for their images. Wow. And I was like, oh, we can use Photoshop. Like, I can draw shit and color it in Photoshop. Like, look. But I also learned how to do a lot of photo retouching there and stuff. So it was actually a really good gig. But we ended up the company was in Detroit, and when you're in Detroit, you're sort of at the behest of all the car companies. Mm-hmm. So if they're doing well, you're doing well. But if they start to falter, that trickle down happens, and it happened. It was right around when GM went bankrupt, which was in the late 90s.
Right.
And the company I worked for couldn't make any money anymore. We were just like, well, we can continue forest, and you can have a job, but you don't get paid. So you want that? And I was just like, fuck this. And so I ended up leaving, but not thinking. I was like, I'll get another job. And there was nothing. There was nothing, because everything was affected by this GM shutdown.
Wow.
So I was faltering. I was literally like applying to like car washes and shit.
Wow.
Trying to find something, anything. And out of the blue, I got a call from a video game company out of Boston who had seen my work, the pencil and paper stuff in the RPG, the graphite renderings. And they called me and they're like, hey, we need somebody, and we saw your stuff, and would you like to come interview? And so I did, and I accepted the job and moved to Boston in 99 and started doing video games. Yeah, so I did video games for 10 10 years, maybe even longer than that, 11 years.
You weren't like a freelancer. You were working at the company.
Yeah. So I literally working for a company.
What a trip! So you're living in a totally new place and a new no friends, nothing, just
got my shit, packed it up into a Ryder truck, and moved across the country.
Wow.
Not really, but yeah, from Michigan to Boston, and started a whole new thing, and made it was a interesting time. I found out a few things about myself. I don't like Boston. I'm not an East Coast type person. No offense. It's a great place to visit. It's a lot of history. Amazing. I am not that person.
Right.
But yeah, I ended up coming in and doing just 2D, and with the promise of being taught 3D, because everything's done 3D and stuff, and it just never manifested for whatever reason. I think my boss was had a bit of a Napoleon complex. Short little guy. It just was really controlling. I once got really drunk and mouthed off at a company party that he likes us being action figures, and that got me in a bit of trouble.
This was a time when that kind of work was paying pretty well back then, wasn't it? I mean, it still pays well.
Oh God, yeah. There is no money like game money.
Really?
I mean,
oh yeah. I'm thinking. I'm sorry. I was thinking it was an RPG type situation.
Oh no,
you're talking video games. You're talking video.
Full on computer game.
Right. Okay.
It was Impressions Games. They made city builders. So their big one was Caesar, and then I worked on one that was set in Egypt called Pharaoh, and then another one after that was set in Greece called Zeus. And you started out with a little. It was like SimCity, except you had little guys ran around, and your plebes would build shit for you.
Right.
You keep them happy with grain and But I was there until 2004, so 99 to 2000 or 2003, and was like, I was like, I can't live here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And so I started looking around at various places that I could go, and kind of set on Washington State as a potential, and then at the same time, coincidentally, I ended up I was big into console gaming, like playing console. There was a video game that came out on the PS2, I think, Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance, and it was like this sort of isometric, you run around and you kill things and you collect their treasure and stuff, and just was amazed by it. And I was like, these are the people. This is the people I want to work for. This is like the game I want to do. And I looked at the box, and I went, okay, this is the company. Went online. I was like, oh crap, these guys are in Washington.
Oh wow!
And out of the blue, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about moving there. I really love a job. What do I need to do? And sort of had this, built this rapport with the art director. And it turns out this company was just ridiculously small. And I went and interviewed, and even though I had no 3D experience, they sort of kind of threw the caution to the wind and hired me, and I worked there for quite a long time. I was the 14th person to start.
Wow.
I guess 14th person, I was number 40 because there was hard to see. So there was more people that quit, and then I came in. So I don't know if I was the 14th person in the company, but there were 13 people there prior to me starting, and then there was 14.
Okay. I got you.
Anyway, so by the time...
You're cutting out. You're cutting out on me.
150, 200.
Okay,
yeah.
You're back. You were cutting out
for
a second.
By the time... Okay, good. Yeah, by the time I quit, the company had grown to about 100 150 to 200 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. I was there quite a while, and it was interesting. I learned a lot and had some good times. And
How long were you there?
but we'll say 8-9 years, maybe.
Wow.
Or maybe, yeah. No, because I had at least a 10-year career. So I quit in 2008.
Okay.
I think it was 5 or 6 years that I was there.
Okay. Why'd you quit?
Yeah. I met a woman.
Ah.
Yeah. So I'd been married prior to me coming to the what's up? Hang on a second. We got a visitor.
Hey, what's up?
This is my daughter.
Hello.
Can you say hi? Can you say hi? No? How old are you?
4.
4. All right. Go run through this real quick.
No.
What? Daddy's talking. What?
Can you want me with the tiny swimsuit?
No. Not yet. I have to talk. Go talk to your mom.
Tiny, cute suitcase.
I understand. Go talk to your mom. Daddy's busy right now, okay?
But
no.
But Mom's not gonna do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Wait. Can you wait for Daddy to be done? Okay, so I'll be out when I'm done, okay?
Okay.
All right. I love you though. You're cute as a button. She hates me.
That was awesome.
So yeah, I'd been married and then got divorced when we were in Washington and spent a couple years alone and decided that I wasn't really good alone. I'm sort of one of those people that like needs to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting on eHarmony of all things.
Oh, wow.
Because there's literally like 14 women in the game industry and most of them are married.
Right.
So, yeah, got on eHarmony and had probably 5 or 6 just miserable dates and was thinking about just getting off and ended up matching up with this woman, and she was like, it was just sparks from the first time we talked on the phone. And
Amazing.
she was going to medical school in Washington, at University of Washington, and she was in her last year of that and sort of getting ready to head out in the world. And to pay for her schooling, she had taken a naval scholarship. And the rule is they will pay for your school, but you owe them a year of service for every year that they paid. And so I was like, you know what? This is like, I'm 38 and I could literally spend the rest of my life, because I was being wooed by another company, Valve, who does big company.
Right.
I had been sort of tapped to join their ranks by Jeremy Bennett, of all people, who is one of the concept artists on the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just like all these like big things coming at me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna follow my heart. So I ended up quitting my job, married this woman, and literally went off to see the world. Oh,
wow.
And yeah, so I just walked away from everything.
Amazing.
Yeah, so here we are. So we ended up doing 8 years, just traveling around. We went to Florida first, and then spent 3 years on Guam, one of our territories out in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And then another 2 years in Southern California, Oceanside, and then she ended up getting out of the military, went and decided to do civilian medicine, and so she quit, and then we came up here to Washington and settled down.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was 8 years and 3 kids later, and here we are.
Wow, amazing. That's a quite a story. So how did you start? When did you start showing in galleries? How did that factor in?
So that was another interesting story. So like the caveat, one of the big caveats of doing digital artwork is that it becomes very easy to do.
Right.
There's a I mean, it's not a 100% safety net, but there is a big safety net. And I realized one day I was at work and I had been doing digital illustration for so long and had such a process down that I realized I was bored.
Right.
I would sit and have my chin like in my hand and just sort of draw kind of like
yeah.
I'm like, why am I doing this? I want something that's going to be like exciting. And I had been in the RPG CCG game industry and done all these pencil illustrations, but I never really got into doing oil painting.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been around some really amazing oil painters. And I mean, I was there when like Brahm was just coming on.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And Rob Ruppel, you know him? He got out of he does a lot of he was doing video games for a while. So he did a lot of RPG, CCG, got into video games, and now does movie concepts and stuff. I think he worked for Disney for a long time. He does a lot of art direction. But all these people that are just like Jeff Easley,
yeah.
You know, Larry Elmore, all these guys are just like hardcore painters, and being surrounded by that, I was just like, yeah, I think I want to do that again,
right?
Or try, right? And I had known all these people that had done oil painting, while I was like, their track was like oil painting, and mine was like digital illustration, and I still knew them, and so I started writing to them. I was like, hey, can you teach me how to paint? Right? And it was just like, yeah, I guess. I mean, right? Which is funny too, because now when people are like, oh man, I really love what you do. Like, how do you paint? And my reaction is sort of like, you put paint on a palette, and you put your brush into it, and stroke it on a canvas. I mean, like, there's such an X factor that like I cannot go from point A to point B and have you painting, right? I mean, such a weird, like, I just do it thing that happened, and I'm sure you do the same thing. We're just like, I don't actually know.
Well, I had to at a certain point. I started teaching seminars, and it was like probably 10 years in. Let me see, maybe like, I don't know, 7 years into my career, and I realized I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea, so I had to like break down my process and then figure out what the fuck I was doing all this time in order to teach people. And it was like, it was weird.
I'm like really good at like pulling stuff apart. I had a phase for a while where I was like buying antique pocket watches and disassembling them and cleaning them and fixing all the parts and then putting them back together so they worked.
Oh wow!
And just loved doing that. I love like breaking down processes.
I used to do that when I was a kid all the time. I would take my bike completely apart and paint it and put it back together.
Yeah, so I get, and I can describe to you why things work in art. I can tell you the psychology behind why things work.
Mm-hmm.
I can break down all the processes, but when you're actually putting brush to canvas, something is happening at such a low level that I cannot put it into words.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It is just something that you have to do until it feels right.
Right.
And I can tell you what I do. I can tell you each portion of the process. but I cannot make you paint like me.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So,
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I know what you mean.
God, I lost the track of the question.
That was my fault because I interrupted you. What were you talking about before that? You were talking about learning to oil paint. Asking all these dudes.
Yeah. So I really want to be an oil painter. So I started like talking to everybody, and they're like, I don't know. So I started sort of just mucking around with it and sort of like trying to apply what I knew from doing digital color and what I knew from doing pencil rendering to oil paint. And yeah, I mean, it's like, 20% of it worked. Right. But like, like the rest of it was just like, oh man.
There's no color picker.
This is uncharted waters here, boys and girls. So I started reading books.
That's how I
got Jeremy Lifkin's palette somehow because he doesn't give it out. But I was like reading it, somehow he slipped or something. He ended up like giving out his palette, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take those colors. And I had a book, Alec Prima.
What's his name? Schmid, Richard Schmid.
Schmidt, yeah. And he has a palette list, and so I was like, okay, if I just take this palette and sort of take the colors I want out of that, and I did the exercise where you like mix.
Oh, you did that? I was just talking to somebody about that.
My God,
I was just talking to somebody about that to where it's like, nobody I know has done it. It's like everybody knows about that exercise, but it seems like it would take so long. It
does.
But it seems like it would be incredibly valuable.
Oh, it's hugely valuable. Actually, I've done it twice.
Wow.
I did it with the colored palette that I had. Realized that a lot of the colors that I had picked prior, I never used. Because I had my favorites, and so I sort of redid the color.
Oh.
The color selection that I have, that set number of colors that I use.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess now I have to redo everything that I've done. And so I did. I redid the.
So for people who don't know what we're talking about, how would you describe this?
Okay,
it's an exercise in this book.
So this is I decided on 11 tubes of paint of various shades and pigments, right?
Right.
So a couple of blues, some yellows, green, reds, and you take each one of those 11 tubes of paint and you make a card for each one. So like say you had cadmium yellow, and then you take cadmium yellow and you mix it 1-to-1 with the transparent oxide red that you have, and then you dilute it down so it's more cadmium yellow than transparent, and so you make a gradient with the transparent oxide red, right? Then you take your yellow ochre on the same card and you mix it and you do the same thing, make little squares, and so on and so forth through all 11 colors on that card. So now you know what that card or what that paint mixes like with every other paint that you have in various strengths, right? So like it's 100% down to like and then you do that for every single card that you have.
It's insane.
Every single color, like it is like an immense amount of work.
Right. That's something that they should have taught you in college. I mean, that's that's like a college thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That would be an excellent project for people to do because it teaches you so much. Because if as a painter with just having zero experience, if you were to look at a tube of say cadmium yellow and viridian or alizarin crimson, you would say, oh my god, the alizarin crimson is so much more intense, more colorful. But when you mix it, it is an terrible mixing color. It is so weak.
Right.
Again, and when you have it on a chart where you're looking at it again, you're like, okay, here's my cadmium card, and that's a really strong color, a really strong pigment.
Yeah.
And so it is affected very little by whatever you add to it, whereas a Blizzard Crimson has a very strong, or has a very weak mixing, and so is greatly affected.
Right.
And so you know intrinsically by looking at these cards, they're like, okay, I want a color that's more, so I have to add very little of whatever color's going into Blizzard Crimson, otherwise I'm just going to be fucked.
Right.
So it really makes you aware of how not just the colors work, but how strong they are when they're with other colors. And then on top of that, where you would say like, oh, this color mixed with this color is definitely going to give me this color. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Right.
It gives you wildly wrong things.
Right.
Like, my God, I just mixed orange and blue together, and I'm getting this kind of pukey green that's like, yeah, just
right.
like, what the fuck? Like, it should have been brown.
Right.
No, it doesn't work that way.
So that must have been a big kind of a revelation to do all those colors.
Yeah, and it is a huge amount of work. But if you want to know your colors, if you want to know your pigments, it is 100%. Unless you do 100 paintings,
right,
and just keep using them, it is an excellent exercise, because not only on top of that, learning all that information, now when I do a color study, because I still do all my color studies digitally, so I compose a piece, I paint it on the computer, I say this is what I want,
right,
and then when I move to the canvas, I look at the color study and say that's the blue I want. And then I look at the color charts that I've done, and I'm like, oh, here's that blue. And so that gives me an idea of what together.
That's a smart way of doing it.
Yeah. So it's a really beneficial exercise. Just give yourself a couple of months, because it just takes forever.
A couple of months? Is that how long it takes? A couple of months?
I did a row. I calculated it out once. It was a row. So from just two colors mixed together, one row took about 15 minutes. So times that over 11, times that by 11.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of work. That's interesting, though.
Because you got to mix each one, right?
Right.
You got to mix it, and then you got to mix the proper amount. And like it's just like you have to it's systematic.
Yeah, right. It's such a smart way to work, though. I've always been, I was too lazy to do it. It's like hearing about it, I want to still do it, but it's like, it's just, I just didn't have I have patience when I'm painting and stuff, but for that, I could never bring myself to do it. I kind of wish I had, but
it's kind of mind-numbing work too.
Yeah.
You really have you have to put yourself into a kind of a Zen state to be like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Right.
But an hour, you put some tunes on, or I usually listen to books or something, just to get my mind off of it and just paint. And I also like, again, I'm very detail oriented, so I made in Illustrator, I made charts with little squares, and then printed those out and then glued them to a piece of paper. So I was actually painting into little squares that were already labeled.
Oh, cool.
That's
cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I still have both sets still. I mean, they're very precious to me. And I do use them all the time.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool. Well, I went through a phase early on, because I started actually, I was doing makeup effects and sculpting and painting creatures.
Yeah.
But I started doing Photoshop to do creature designs. So, and I had this big background in drawing my whole life, so I knew how to draw and stuff. But so I started off doing digital stuff as a fine artist, and Just at the very beginning. I'm talking like
Right.
late 90s, 2000 maybe, or something like
Sure.
that. No, 2000. And when I switched over to oils, I started doing studies the same way you're talking, like, color studies in the computer. And because it's so fast, it's so much faster.
Yeah.
But then I started doing them in oil and selling them, and I was like, oh, it's like I'm gonna these are easier to sell than the actual paintings themselves. So I'm gonna actually paint my studies, and now I'm completely in the habit of always an oil study, and then the big painting.
Yeah. I know a few artists that do that. I don't know if you're familiar at all with Donato Giancola.
Mm-hmm. He's amazing.
He started doing that too. He would do all these sketches and stuff, and then realized that he could sell the sketches. So then he started doing like really nice, beautiful pencil drawings that are like the tonal. So he starts with a brown sheet of paper and then does like brown and white on top. Gorgeous stuff. But he had epiphanies. It's like, why am I throwing all this shit away?
I know, it's like
money right here.
If I do, occasionally I'll be under such a time crunch that I do it in Photoshop just to save time. And every time I do it now, I feel like I'm just like wasting money. I could have made $400 off this if I was painting it, but it's great in a pinch for me.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm a terrible business person. Somebody asked me the other day, it's like, why do you do prints? I'm like, because I'm lazy. I don't want to deal with it.
Well, it's a whole. I mean, are you still working in the industry?
No.
Are you 100% your own art?
Yeah. So the whole story kind of goes. I got married, left the game industry. I did do occasional freelance jobs. I would pick up like concept work, but that's sort of like, it's kind of few and far between. And I never really pursued it. I suppose if I did, I could get more work. But like, I sort of am one of those people that like, oh, somebody just called me to do a job, I'll do it. Yeah, never really cared enough. And then when I met my wife, she was gainfully employed, first by the military, which is great if you need insurance or want to travel and see the world. I mean, they pay for everything.
Right.
And then when she got out, she went civilian side. She's a doctor, right? So whenever I do teaching now, it's kind of mean, I know, but I tell you, it's like, my students, I say, I tell you, the one way that I have found to make it as an artist is to marry a doctor. Because now I just do what I watch the kids and I take care of the house and stuff. But there's no real impetus to make money.
Oh, that's cool. So I
kind of like have this freedom. Just explore.
Yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it was hard. It was a hard transition because I had always been that rock star artist, right? I was like making games and showing and doing interviews and like had this like thing that it was like my identity, and I had this whole thing up, and then all of a sudden it's just like I stopped because I tried to do full-time gallery shows.
Right.
When I left the industry, I was like, oh, here's my chance, right? But I started doing it, and it never really kind of went anywhere, and I sort of got disgruntled with it, and then we moved around a lot, so like shipping, I had to always ship off these huge groups of and it never really collided. And then we ended up having our first kid, and that kind of really just shit the bed. I mean, the whole thing just kind of, because, I mean, like, having a kid is just like your first kid. And I had my first kid like 5 days before I turned 40.
Right.
It was just like, oh my God. It was such a paradigm shift that, it really, it threw me for a loop. And then I couldn't keep up. And then, like, if you're not showing and you're not out there, you lose that sort of rarefied air status that you had.
Right.
And yeah, the public is fickle. I mean, if you're not showing, like, you know, people still know who I am. And I still get, you know, occasional, like, hey, you're amazing, and blah, 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 but it wasn't like it was, right?
Right.
And I went through a real kind of, like, I had to recenter myself and kind of, like, learn what was important.
Right.
And yeah, now art will always be important to me, but being a professional artist, not so much anymore.
Right.
I mean, there's the world is so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if I don't have to do it, like, if I had to do it, I would go back and get a job doing video games, because that's easy work and it pays a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have to do it, fuck. Like, I'm just happy to make art.
Right. Yeah.
I make whatever I want. And in the meantime, you know, if I sell it, great. If I don't, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
So yeah, it was a real paradigm shift.
Yeah, I was wondering. It seemed like for a while you were, like, really. I was seeing your work a lot in galleries.
Yeah,
and then it seemed like you weren't showing anymore, and I was like, "What happened? Where'd he go?"
Yeah,
he was too awesome.
I went to. I fell off the art wagon, and yeah. So I try to keep up now, and just recently, so I did a show with Erica Berkowitz over at Haven in New York. It opened in May, and I have known about this show for a long time, and just, like, I couldn't keep up with it. Like, I ended up giving her, like, 6 pieces, just because I was like, I literally cannot do this, and it made me realize that I cannot do professional art anymore in that capacity, because I can't make promises, because, like, oh my God, like, I have to fix the water heater,
right?
Or I have to, you know, make sure my kids get to school, or, you know, being less, you know, and I have to be there when they're at home off the bus,
right?
And, like, a very limited amount of time, and as such, I can't make promises. I can't say, yeah, I'll have a show for you together,
right?
You know, because I can work, you know, 3 or 4 hours during the day, and then I'm up at night, but then I'm exhausted the next day and stuff. So I just sort of said, you know, this is the last show that I'm gonna do for a while. I'll paint, and if I'll just have a library of paintings, and if I have something for a group show, great, and if not, so be it.
Right.
But there's other things I want to do. Like, I got hooked up with a guy up here who I've known for a while. Showed one of my first showings. Actually, my first art show ever was not at Rock LaRue. It was in Astoria at a place called Lunar Boy Gallery that is no longer in existence. But at the same time, there's a guy there, Mark Walker. If you want to look him up on the internet,
Mark Walker.
He's a Mark Walker.
I know that.
He's a bronze sculptor.
I know that name.
Yeah, so just the big thing that he did recently was he did a sculpture for Pearl Jam that they put up in a park in Seattle. A big tree. Guy, what is his name? Ageti. He was in Mudhoney. Anyway, they did maybe they did a tribute piece.
Jeff Ament.
I think it was Jeff Ament.
Okay.
It was a tribute piece to, like, and it was huge, right? He did this huge sculpture. They put it in a park and stuff. But he does all the sculpture, and he's the nicest guy, and he teaches high school. He does this whole shop, and he's like, man, you gotta come up here. And he lives, like, one town over from me now.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, we got hooked back together after all these years because we kind of stayed in touch. And
this guy's been in Conjoined. That's where I know him from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been in the Conjoined show. I was like, I know that name. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's a great guy. He's a real fascinating dude. but he's trying to get me to do bronze sculpture. So I'm like, he's just like handing me like just big lumps of clay. He's like, yeah, just sculpt some and we'll go cast it over at like Pratt and blah, 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 blah,
Right.
something. So I want to do that. Like, I'm going to can sculpt, right?
Sculpting is so fun, man.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's so fun.
I'll do that. And I've been working on writing and drawing comic books.
Oh, cool.
You know, like just like completely outside my wheelhouse. But like I had kind of loved comic books. I didn't really collect comic books. My dad, again, who kind of had a thing about like, if you're gonna read literature like Robert Louis Stevenson, like, which again, to his credit, great books, and yes, I'm going to get a lot more from them than I would comic books. And so I never really got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to be a comic book artist.
Right. And
much later on, having been introduced and then becoming friends with a lot of comic book artists, I'm like, you know, I kind of want to do that still.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to write a story. And in doing that, I kind of realized that, again, the art that I do has a story. It has that it is macabre. It is, but there's a underpinning.
Oh yeah.
Story to it.
Yeah, it all seems like it takes place in the same world, in its own reality.
It has a throughput, and in kind of coming to that realization, I said to myself, I was like, well, I'm not really a fine artist. I'm a storyteller, and I want to tell these stories, and I can tell bigger stories, more complex stories, with more panels and pages and stuff. And so I started writing it and getting into it, and realized I had absolutely zero idea of what I was doing, like nothing. Like, I put together a painting and I'm really good at it, and I know exactly where the composition is supposed to go and everything. But all of a sudden, now I'm like, all right, I've got a bunch of tiny little paintings that all have to work, and they all have to like flow into one another.
Right.
And then I have to have dialogue boxes that are part of that composition.
Right.
And I have to fit the text in to those dialogue boxes, so it can't be like very verbose. It has to like be this truncated text that isn't also right. It was this compound. I was just like, this is like, I have literally no idea what I'm doing here. And it was fascinating and exciting.
Oh wow.
Because it was so like all of a sudden I was like 12 again, trying to fucking drop Conan, right? Like I don't know where the deltoid is. I don't know how the arms look, right? I mean, it's like, it was so big to put this stuff together.
Wow. How far along are you?
That's where I'm at now.
How far did you get?
Currently, I'm still working on book 1. And I had 15 books planned out.
Wow.
That I've written the whole arc for.
Oh, amazing.
But like, again, it's starting to like tick up a little faster now, because at first it was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll just drop out. No, that doesn't work. I can pull that apart. And so it's the process is getting easier, and it's going faster. But yeah, it's been really, and it hasn't been 100% constant, because it's like I'm still like kind of getting the occasional job, or you know, I'm not working on it full time. I'm still doing.
You're dealing with the kids, taking care of the kids, and all that stuff too.
Only, but like that aside, like I'm still like I still want to like dabble in painting, and I still want to like draw this thing for this guy, and like, you know, so it hasn't been a full-time gig, but it has been interesting, and I'm sure like sculpting will be the same way. I've had this, you know, kind of idea that I want to like sculpt and do bronze sculpture, but I also want to like try like making models, like diorama, like scratch building like little robots out of like bar stock and
right,
you know,
and
doing Well, because I used to paint miniatures when I was like, because I played D&D when I was growing up.
Yeah, same
I
here.
miniatures and I put them in little scenes and
Yep.
whatnot. It's like, I fucking do that with like, you know. And then you get on Pinterest and you see like people are doing like these models of junker cars and doing rust on them and stuff, and rust, like bleeding through the paint.
It's so
and whatnot.
cool.
Holy shit! Like all of this translates exactly 1-to-1 over to doing the robots that I do.
Right.
And if I could realize that in 3D with a little model, you know, like in a scene, and like how fucking cool would that be?
Oh yeah, so fun.
Oh, yeah. So that's, I mean, there's so much that I want to do, and it's just like, yeah, it's like being a kid in a candy shop. All of a sudden, it's like I'm free to be the artist that I've always wanted to be without having the shackles of bills and you know.
That's amazing, and an envious position to be in, for sure.
Yeah, I'm forever grateful for what my wife's done for me in that regards, and she's okay with it. She's her one request is that if it ever goes anywhere, she wants to be the +1 on the red carpet. So, that's all she wants.
Of course, that goes without saying.
I would think nothing less.
Yes.
So.
How cool. Yeah, that I've talked about this before on the podcast, how, you know, my whole goal, because my stepdad, who raised me since I was like maybe 6 years old or 7 or something, he was a painter, and he just you know, when growing up, we were just like, it was feast or famine our whole lives. And so that was part of the reason I got into makeup effects, because I just was like, you can't make a living as a fine artist. My dad's amazing and he can't do it, or he's barely doing it. Right. And so part of, you know, there's the whole story, but I got totally burnt out on effects and sick of it. So I decided to be a fine artist, and my idea was I want to be successful where my dad couldn't do it. I want to make him proud, and I want to make a living doing it. And so, you know, it's been, since 2002 that I've just been every month struggling, you know. Or no, I quit. I started 2002, and I was doing that while I was in effects, and then I quit effects in like 2010, or I don't even remember, somewhere in there. And then I was full time, and I just had to fucking bust my ass every single month to bring the money in. And where it was so insane, but I was just, I had to, it was like, there's no other choice for me. I have to, you know, I got myself in debt doing it. So it's like, I was kind of making a reason to have to make a lot of money so I could pay my debt off. But it was like, I was also just trying to make my living at it. But as much as it sucked, and it's been so very painful, it made me produce so much work, you know. It just made me produce like hundreds of paintings, and so it's kind of like it was a weird blessing in disguise to have to put myself in that position, because it forced me to really learn faster than I probably would have, and produce way more than I probably would have, and really focus on that goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have always had a job. I've never been able to commit to being just my ass in the wind.
It's hard, man.
I've always had a backup, and I'll do, like, I want to do fine art, but I also am going to have this full-time gig doing video games, right? So I really respect people that can do that. I know a lot of illustrators that do it and have families that they support.
Right.
I'm not that person. I know I'm not that person, and as such, I can't commit to that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that I, you know, wasn't that kind of person either, but I put myself in a position where I had to be. So it's like I had to learn how to do business. I had to learn marketing, all this shit I was not interested in. But it actually, in the long run, it's like, you know, kind of made me more well-rounded, and it was like I learned all these new things, and, you know, it all worked out in the end. But I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing. Cause I just, my whole fine art career, I've just been complaining about being broke and being stressed out, and just like, it's just like,
Sure.
why am I doing this? And then,
Yeah.
and then you finally get to a point where I'm at now, to where it's like, okay, I've got, I'm not totally stressed out this month. I've got maybe a month or two bills paid in advance for the first time ever. And so I'm looking back and I'm like, I'm seeing the value in that, know.
I hear you.
But so it's like, having to make money is a big motivating factor. And, but on the other hand, I don't get to just make dioramas and comic books if I want to. It's like,
right.
I'm working to get to that place to where I can do whatever I want.
You're everywhere though. Like every time I turn around, I see Chet Zar.
I know, but
like everything.
But that's part of. It's out of necessity, It's part of this thing. I'm trying to get to this place where.
Well, you just have to reach that tipping point,
right?
So Malcolm Gladwell, man, tipping point. There will reach that weight of your presence will just eventually kind of catapult you. It'll become self-sustaining.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, it's been a bitch though.
I bet. I'm utmost respect for you, man. I could not do it. I could not do it.
Yeah, if you had to, you probably could. But you probably wouldn't want to.
I go live with my probably.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I have these same impulses you do. Dioramas,
sure,
sculpture.
Sure.
I want to make a comic book of my world. I'm working on a book of my tying all my paintings together called Dystopia.
Sure.
It's the whole world, and I mean that's my ultimate goal. Is once I get this book done, which I'm planning on trying to do next month, is get it all finished. I want to do a comic book, just like you're saying, and it's like it sounds so fun. And I was never like a superhero comic guy. I was a horror comic guy, which is really kind of a weird offshoot of comic books, but like those old EC horror comics and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I was into. And the idea of illustrating something like that with my characters just sounds so much fun.
Yeah, No, I don't do superheroes. I'm not a big superhero guy.
Yeah.
No, my comic book is a barista that works in a coffee roadside coffee stands.
Mm-hmm.
Gets accidentally teleported into a fantasy world,
mm-hmm.
and he has to be the hero that he really isn't.
Uh-huh.
And it's all based on the fact that like this very vital treasure was stolen by a ninja that looks like a French seaman and a talking flower stole. So I mean it's fucked up, man.
Man, sounds amazing though. I would read that.
So yeah, it's gonna be it'll be interesting.
Do you have any what are you doing regarding shows? Are you still kind of like after that last one in May? Or are you just kind of like
I've got literally nothing lined up. Kirsten asked me to do something for Rock LaRue. I was like, it was right at the tail end of me working on the show at Haven. I was just like, I can't. I just can't. I mean, I've got probably about 3 or 4 paintings that are sitting in the wings waiting for me to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have things painted and I'll put them up on the web. I mean, that's not I always be more than happy to put it out there, but I've got nothing lined up. And again, it's not really something that is, I don't want that pressure.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Having nothing lined up.
Right. It's not, it's Midwest guilt really is what it is. It's not, I don't feel like I want to do it. It's the idea of saying yes and then not being able to do it.
Right.
Disappoint. Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's really where the anxiety comes from.
Right. Right. Yeah. And if you could avoid that kind of anxiety, then good.
Right.
I mean, I canceled all year. Everything I had except for I got a piece I got to do for the Blab show. This week. But other than that, and that was I kind of committed to that a long time ago. But I have to get my book done because it's 4 years late.
Yeah, right. I mean,
so it's like it's so late that I just had
to. Money is. That's the other thing. It's just like you will never make money working for somebody else. It took me like I mean, I guess I never realized that because I always worked for somebody else. But like, yeah, I mean, you could get paid really well,
right?
But you want to like really make money, you got to do your own IP, and that's really where it's at. And there's no better time to do it than right now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, not just because of the we're getting older and we need to fucking work, and if I wait until next year, I'm just like miserable, and it's going to be a point at which I cannot work anymore. But like the interconnectivity and the marketing and the platforms like Kickstarter,
GoFundMe,
and stuff, it's like so much like opportunity for nobodies to make fucking. There was a dude that made just shitloads of money because he was going to film himself making mac and cheese. You remember, like when Kickstarter first came out?
That's right. That's right.
Because everybody thought it was like, oh, this is a great joke. I'll get my buck, right?
Yeah.
But if you can convince 100,000 people to give you $1, which is nothing to most people, all of a sudden you have $100,000.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, it's like the concept is sound.
I know. There really has never been a better time to be an artist, I think, in the history of the world.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's an interesting time, and so much opportunity out there for doing stuff.
Yeah,
and if you can just find that moment, find that kind of space to do your thing, and which is wholly yours, and put it out there, then fucking do it.
That is the perfect place to end the show because we're at an hour and a half right now, and it's like it couldn't be a better place to stop.
Okay, it's good. I'm good.
Do you so you don't have any promotional things or anything, place to go?
No. If you want to see more of my work, just go to my Facebook. Look just Brian Despain at. I made the mistake of doing both my personal Facebook page and my professional Facebook page are both named the same, Brian Despain.
Right.
But you can see my artwork there. My website has been updated in God knows how long, but I'm always, if you want to contact me, I'm always willing to answer questions or say hi, whatever. If you want to show me your artwork, great. I'm more than happy to critique it, whether you want me to or not. But Brian at DespainArt.com. Just go ahead and write me. I'm always open. I'm not shy about talking.
And he's a nice guy, as you can tell, everybody, I'm sure.
Mostly nice. Depends on how much I've had a drink and what the kids are doing.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. That was super fun.
Absolutely. This has been amazing. This has really been a great experience. So.
Yeah, great to finally learn about you, and and I'm glad to be able to tell you how much I admire your work. And
Sorry. Go ahead. My alarm went off.
Oh, that's weird. Travis Louis. I thought it was my phone. Travis Louis calling, FaceTiming me.
Oh, Travis. Oh,
yeah.
I said hi.
You know Travis, right?
I do know Travis quite well.
From Rock LaRue, I imagine.
From Rock LaRue, yeah. We've hung out together. We hung out together in Atlanta at Dragon Con.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah, I like Travis. He was one of the first people I contacted. I was like, how do I get into doing shows?
Oh, wow.
So he kind of introduced me around. And
yeah, he's the guy. I remember someone referring to him as the mayor.
Yeah,
he's like always introducing people to each other.
Trav. Yeah, tell him I said hi.
I will.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's a cool community. That's the other cool thing about the art world is the vast majority of the artists are cool.
Yeah.
People you want to hang out with anyway, you know?
Very few dicks in the art.
Yep, it's true.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Mostly, I think because we're so desperate for human contact, because all we do is sit and paint.
You're right. That could be it. We haven't been burned out by humanity yet.
Right.
Well, thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely, 100%.
Let me give the little spiel here. Everybody, thank you for listening. And if you would like to support the Dark Art Society Patreon, you can join for $1 a month. Get in the free Facebook group, the secret Facebook group. Get in the free Friday night art jams we have, which if you're not doing anything on Friday night, it would be awesome to have you on. It's just like people just hang out. You don't have to be drawing or painting, but most people are painting, and they're just talking art shit and creating. Absolutely. It's really fun.
Yeah, we'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Excuse me. So so it's only $1 a month for everybody listening. You help support the podcast, keep it free for everyone. Blah blah blah, all that same stuff. Okay, same stuff I always say every week. So okay, thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
And thank you everybody for listening. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Brian, to everybody.
Bye, Internet. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Internet.